Hello, it's Rebecca and we're nearly at the end of the year. Oh my goodness, this year has gone so quickly. Okay, I don't even want to think about that. That's just too much. And I thought I would just do a little recap of the BookaShelf 2016 reading challenge and my thoughts and what I'd read, and just kind of do a little bit of a wrap up. In the summer last year, 2015. Oh, I had to think about that for a second. What year are we in? Yeah, 2015. My friend Hannah and I decided to put together our own reading challenge because we'd done the Pop Sugar challenge and we quite enjoyed it, but we wanted to start our own. So in the summer last year, we kind of sat down and put together our list, and it became the BookaShelf 2016 reading challenge because we'd combined my YouTube channel, BookaBecca, and Hannah's Shelf Restraint, and it became BookaShelf. And we had put together a list of 26 books to read over the year of 2016. And part of our challenge was also what we were going to do, as we both work in the library, we were both going to order each other either 4 or 5 extra books to read that the other person doesn't know about. So it was like a recommendation, but you had to read them. So that would have given a total of 31 books or something that we were going to read over this year. Sadly, our friendship ended at the end of 2015. These things happen, but I thought I would still carry on with the challenge because I don't like to be defeated. So I wanted to do the challenge. So sadly, we didn't get to do the swapping of the 4 or 5 extra books, but I did carry on with the 26 books. Now, if you've been following, you will know that each book comes from a different category, so they're all alphabetised A to Z, making 26 books, which is pretty self-explanatory. So there were things like a book with a month in the title. Lily's getting very excited about that one. A rare book, a book with your name in the title. Oh, she just loves the challenge. A book written by somebody who is younger than you. Oh, just loads and loads of different things. And I read such a wide range of books. Some I liked, obviously. Some I didn't like, obviously. And there were a few that kind of didn't faze me either way. And I probably can't really remember too much about them. Not that I didn't like them, but they just didn't kind of affect me at all. So I'll talk about the ones that I really liked first, because you can't help but have those stuck in your brain box. So I think probably one of my favourite books that I read this year is called Only Ever Yours by Louise O'Neill, and I read that for the category of Why, a book written by somebody younger than you. And that was just so gripping. It was just spot on, take you by the shoulders, drag you out of your life and throw you into the book. It was a strange dystopian world where the only purpose of women was to either marry or to be prostitutes, really, to be wives and mothers or sex objects. Oh, it just touched on so many topics and was so well written and absolutely brilliant. So that was one of my favourite books that I read this year, and I have bought her other book, Louise O'Neill's other book, and so hopefully I'll read that next year. I also read Miranda Hearts' Is It Just Me? I actually listened to that as an audio book, which was absolutely brilliant. That came from the category of a book title that contains a question. And I've never listened to an audiobook before. I don't know why. I think, as I found when I was reading, I did doze off. Because, well, not reading. I keep saying reading. Listening. I put it on my very, very old school CD Walkman thing. Still works, I still own it. And I'd sit on the settee and put the earphones in, and I'd find myself just drifting off because it was just so lovely to have someone reading to you, and it is a bit like a bedtime story. So that one did take me a little bit longer to listen to, because I had to, every time I woke up I was like, oh my goodness, I can't remember what I've just listened to, so I had to kind of keep skipping back in the CD. But it was a really, really funny book. I really like Miranda Hart. I think she is just brilliant. She's so tall and awkward and clumsy and strange looking, and I really kind of connect with that because I'm a little bit like that. And yeah, it was an autobiography, but it was just snippets of little things that happened in her life, and it was really, really funny, and I really recommend that. And it was great because she read the audiobook. So you heard her voice and the way that she says things, and it was just absolutely brilliant. So I'd really, really recommend that one. The Life of Pi by Jan Martel. That is a book that I've been wanting to read for a very long time, and I bought it years ago when it first came out, and I started reading it and I was a bit like, oh, I don't get it. I really don't get it. But I read it again, and that was for the category of W, a book that contained water. And it's about a boy who is travelling across the world on a boat with his family and some zoo animals, and the boat sinks and he manages to find a lifeboat. He gets on with an orangutan, a tiger and a hyena. Oh, it was a long time ago that I read it, but it ends up just being him and this tiger travelling across the waters, no idea where he's going, and it is mind-blowingly amazing. I cannot believe that it took me so long to read it, but I thoroughly enjoyed that. I watched the film after I'd read it. Film was okay, not as good as the book, but yeah, I really enjoyed that book, and so glad that I read it, and I wouldn't have done if it hadn't been for the challenge. So yeah, really pleased about that one. Another one that I've been wanting to read for a while but never got around to it is The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. And I had seen the film years ago, but it hadn't kind of stuck in my head as something that I properly remembered while I was reading the book. Little bits kind of jumped out at me, but in the main, I couldn't remember the film. But that was another one I enjoyed. Really easy to read, really easy to get into. It had a few flaws, but most things do. You're not going to enjoy absolutely everything about a book. But that was another one that I was so glad that I read because of the challenge. And that was for... oh, I can't remember what category that was for. Hang on, let me just check. It was for the category of B, a bestseller. And that was a, really good book, and I can understand why it's a bestseller. And Pop Goes the Weasel, which is the second book by MJ Arledge. I read the first one, the title escapes me, eeny meeny, ages ago, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And so I read the second one, Pop Goes the Weasel, which was the category of V, a violent book. And it's gory, horrible crime, but so well written and really just, again, grabs you, takes you out of your comfort zone and throws you into a really fascinating world of crime and deprivation and all nasty bloody murders and gore and guts and things like that, which I can't watch, but I certainly can read about. So I'm going to read the rest of her series at some point because she's written a few more books. But yeah, again, another book that I really enjoyed and couldn't put down. And that's, even if it's not the best written book in the world, I know it's a good book because I can't put it down. And I don't care what it's about or what happens or who's written it or anything, what genre, doesn't bother me. It's if I have to prise it out of my hands, then I know it's a really good book. Another book that I really found gripping, I'm thinking about this, I actually enjoyed more than I realised for this challenge. It is The Mall by S.L. Gray, and that was for the category of You, a book with an unhappy ending. And I've read S.L. Gray's other books, well, most of them I think, and they're really peculiar and strange and dark and twisted and horrible and freaky and weird, and you really hope that the world doesn't end up like the descriptions in these books because they're just horrific. And I won't tell you anything about them all, but I will tell you to read it because, yeah, again, just it messes with your mind. It's so amazing and so dark, and like I say, it's just too many weird things go on, so it keeps you on the edge of your seat, and it really is just absolutely brilliant. So I would recommend that one without a doubt, but I'm not going to tell you what happens because it's too weird. It still gives me nightmares. And now for the books that I feel like I've wasted my life reading, which is sad, but we're not going to like everything, are we? So that there is going to be some things that I just didn't like at all. The book that I read for S, a sci-fi book, is the third book in a trilogy, and I read the first two books last year and didn't get around to reading the third one. I just ran out of time. And the first book I really liked. The second book was a bit dodgy, and I thought it would just be kind of a not so good second book that would be the bridge between the amazing first book and the amazing third book. And the third book, again, I just didn't like it. If I'd stuck with the first one, I would have been happy. But I thought they would give some answers to the things that were left as a cliffhanger in the first book, but they didn't give me any answers. So the book that I read for the sci-fi category It's called Acceptance by Jeff Vandermeer. And like I say, it's the third one in a trilogy, and I didn't like the trilogy. First book, brilliant. Second and third, didn't like it. And I thought I would, because again, it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic dystopian world where things go wrong, and it's all a bit weird. And I like those kind of books where society has just shifted after a big catastrophe. But it didn't hold up. I didn't enjoy it. The book that I read for the category of a book with an industrial theme, which is kind of steampunk, was Leviathan by Scott Westerfield. And I wasn't looking forward to reading a book for this category because steampunk just doesn't interest me at all, and I just couldn't get into the book. I didn't fully understand the juxtaposition between really futuristic kind of machinery and mechanics and almost kind of Victorian way of life and fashion and outlook. I don't know, it just, for me, it didn't gel. I know it's a really popular genre and so many people read it, but just personally, I couldn't get into it. The story didn't interest me that much. There is a sequel, but I won't be reading that. It was just too much that my brain couldn't kind of deal with. Alice in Zombieland by Gina Showalter. I read this for the category of Z, a zombie version of a classic, and I was thinking it was going to be a bit like Pride and Prejudice and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which is the classic tale of Pride and Prejudice with the zombies added in. So the main story is all of the characters from Pride and Prejudice, but the zombies are just an extra. And I thought Alice in Zombieland was going to be of a similar story, so it would be Alice in Wonderland, but there would be zombies. And I know Alice in Wonderland is a very strange story anyway, and there's weird creatures that pop up and strange goings on and everything. So I just thought zombies would be an extra added weirdness to that story. It wasn't. It was nothing like Alice in Wonderland. It's about a girl, Alice, who goes to a new school, and there are weird things going on, and it turns out that there's zombies and that kind of thing. But it was set in reality. So it was set in a high school, and she was falling in love with this bad boy, and it turned out this bad boy was like the zombie slayer or something. I don't know, but because I'd expected it to be Alice in Wonderland plus zombies, I was really disappointed. And even if I just read it as a normal book without the assumption, it just wasn't a very good book at all. It may be because I'm a bit old, and it was kind of based around teenagers in high school and all the problems that teenagers have. I just didn't really connect with it, but that was one I can't recommend for a zombie version of a classic, and I also can't recommend it for just a normal book. And the book that I read for the category of a book with an orange cover, was Loitering with Intent by Muriel Spark. I bought a collection of Muriel Spark books a while ago, and they're quite small, and everything on the blurb and on the little quotes on the front said that they were funny and all that kind of stuff, and it was one I just didn't get. It was really boring. Nothing happened, and I don't mind books where nothing happens and you like the characters and, you know, there's something appealing about it, but Loitering with Intent wasn't funny, nothing happened, I didn't like any of the characters. There were too many characters for such a small book, and I didn't know who half the people were because my brain had switched off. So that was just a difficult one to read because I just didn't enjoy it, couldn't get into it. And the others, I kind of enjoyed, kind of didn't enjoy. There were, yeah, just books that were there, not that I would rave about. The ones I've spoken about, yes, I will rave about them, but the rest of the books were just books that I read, glad I read them, but probably won't read any more in any of the series, or, you know, kind of talk about them, because I even have to look at my pictures just so that I can remember what I've read, because they're not all ones that are going to stick in my head. So, yeah, glad I did this challenge, but I won't be doing a challenge next year, and I won't be compiling a challenge next year. I do know that some people have been looking forward to a challenge next year, but I'm really sorry. I'm not going to be doing one. This is just a small selection of my books. I have more books over there. I have more books downstairs that I really just want to read, and I don't want to feel kind of boxed in by categories. Although the categories that we had this year did force me to read books like The Life of Pi and The Lovely Bones, which are books that I have been wanting to read for such a long time and never got round to. Another one was Train Spotting, again a book that I had wanted to read and just never got round to it. And so I read them because of this challenge. But I also felt that I was hurrying through books and struggling with books that I didn't particularly enjoy just because they were part of the challenge. And so, yeah, I've got a love-hate relationship with reading challenges. This is the second year of doing them. And yes, I found books that I wouldn't normally read. And yes, I've read books that I've been meaning to read for a long time. But yes, I've also read books that I really didn't like and didn't want to read. I didn't want to read Leviathan. I didn't want to read Acceptance. I didn't want to read them, but felt like I had to for the challenge. And I know you may read something and it might open up your eyes to a whole new world of books that you hadn't read before. But personally, I would have quite happily done without those books. So next year, 2017, there will be no reading challenge from me, and I won't be doing any of the reading challenges that I find online, although I might be tempted. But I want to get through a lot of books. I bought so many books this year at festivals and through the Book People and the Works and all of that kind of stuff, library books, ex-stock. I've bought so many books, and I want to read them without feeling like I have to read them for the challenge. I just want to have a year of just reading what I want, when I want, and spending as much time as I want on books without feeling like I'm chasing the clock. So thank you to everyone who has joined in the challenge. I know there are a lot of people on the Facebook page who have really got into it this year, and it has been really interesting seeing what everyone else has been reading and finding out what people have thought about what I've been reading. So that was absolutely brilliant, and thank you for kind of building a little community with me for this challenge. But next year, just read what you want. Read what you want. I'll be reading what I want. I'll still be posting videos reviewing all of the books that I've read, but there'll be no challenge. Maybe the year after. I don't know. We'll see how next year goes. But I just want to, like I say, focus on all of these books that I've got here and get through a small portion of my mountain. So again, thank you to everyone that's joined in, and thank you to everyone that's been watching my videos over this year. Please keep watching. Like I say, there will be more videos, but just no challenge. So thank you very much, and have a good day, and I will see you soon.